My fiancé has a secret twin I was never supposed to meet. So, I've been with my fiancé, Sam, for just over 3 years. We got engaged 6 months ago, and honestly, he's the kind of person people write about in those "how did I get so lucky" posts. He's calm, thoughtful, makes a mean mushroom risotto, and does this thing where he taps his thumb when he's thinking really hard. I love that weird little tick. But if there's one thing I don't love, it's how closed off he is about his family. Anytime I asked, it was the same vague response. It's complicated. He mentioned his mom passed when he was young, his dad moved to Florida, and that was about it. No siblings, no cousins he talks to, no visits home, just a clean break. I didn't want to push. Some people have trauma, or messy histories they're not ready to relive. But now I'm wondering if it wasn't about pain. Maybe it was about hiding something. Because last weekend, we went to visit his hometown for a wedding. He said he had to run an errand and left me alone at this little local diner. I was sipping coffee, scrolling, when a guy walked in, same build, same eyes, same freaking face. Except this version of Sam had a rougher look. Beard. A faint scar down his cheek. His jaw clenched the second he saw me, and he walked straight over like he'd been waiting. And then he said, "You must be her." Her, as in me? Sam's fiancé? I nodded, confused. He gave a tight smile. I'm Jake. His brother. Twin, technically. Didn't know he was still pretending I don't exist. What the actual hell? So I sat there, probably looking like someone just unplugged my brain. Twin? I repeated, because what else do you say when your reality hiccups? Jake, if that's even his real name, just nodded and sat down across from me like we were old friends catching up. No invitation, no hesitation. He had the same voice as Sam but deeper, scratchier, like life had roughed it up a bit. He asked how long I'd known Sam. I said 3 years. He just smiled, tight and bitter. 3 years, and he never told you about me. Wow. I was trying not to freak out, but my hand was shaking holding the coffee mug. It didn't help that Jake had this calm, almost smug way of watching me, like he was waiting for something to click. I asked the obvious question. Why would he lie about having a twin? He didn't answer at first. Just leaned back in the booth and said, maybe he wanted to leave the past behind. But the past has a habit of showing up. Then he stood up, dropped a 10 on the table for my coffee, and before walking out, he added, be careful who you're marrying. Sam's good at hiding things. He left me there, reeling. I didn't even get his number. Didn't get to ask the dozens of questions now buzzing in my head. When Sam came back from his errand, I tried to keep it together. I waited until we were back at the Airbnb before I brought it up. I told him I met someone at the diner. Someone named Jake. He froze. I mean literally mid-step. Eyes locked on mine like a deer caught in headlights. Then he said, you must have seen a cousin. I don't have a brother. Just like that. Flat. Dismissive. But I know what I saw. And now I don't know who to believe. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Jake's face, or maybe Sam's face, twisted just enough to belong to someone else. Same eyes, different stare. Sam was next to me, scrolling through his phone like everything was normal. Like I didn't just meet his doppelganger in a small-town diner and have him drop a bomb on my life. The next morning, while Sam was in the shower, I texted the number Jake used to call the diner for his order. Yeah, I remembered the waitress saying, your usual, Jake. A quick Google search and some phone creeping, and I found the place's caller ID. I sent a simple message. Jake? It's me. From the diner. I need to talk. 5 minutes later. Meet me where you met him. 1 hour. I told Sam I was going for a walk to grab coffee and clear my head. He didn't even look up. Bring me something sweet, he mumbled behind the curtain of steam. Jake was waiting for me in the diner parking lot, leaning against a dusty red truck, sunglasses on, arms crossed. Same scar. Same unsettling calm. I didn't waste time. Why is Sam pretending you don't exist? He took off his sunglasses and looked at me with this tired sort of sympathy. Like he'd had this conversation in his head 1,000 times but never thought he'd actually have to say it. Because we stopped existing to each other a long time ago. And he likes it that way. He motioned for me to sit in the truck. I hesitated. Then got in. Something happened when we were 16, he said, eyes fixed on the steering wheel. Something bad. Sam wanted to forget. I didn't. So he left. Changed his name, cut everyone off. Built a new life. I asked what happened. He just shook his head. You should ask him. If he still can. Before I could press him, he added. But if he told you he doesn't have a twin? That's not just forgetting. That's lying. And you deserve to ask why. He handed me a photo before I got out, an old, faded one of two boys, arm in arm. Both grinning. Both unmistakably Sam. Only this time, I could tell who was who. When I got back to the Airbnb, Sam was on the couch with his laptop, acting completely normal. He glanced up, smiled like he always does, and asked, "Did you find that coffee?" I handed him a pastry bag and nodded. My mouth said yes. My brain screamed, "What are you hiding?" The photo from Jake felt like it was burning a hole in my pocket. Two teenage boys, one in a faded hoodie that said "Property of Lincoln High." Same haircut. Same smile. And that same scar Jake still had, barely visible then. No way around it, it was him and Sam. I sat down, trying to play it cool. But I guess I'm not great at pretending everything's fine when I feel like I've been cast in some slow-burn psychological thriller. You sure you don't have a brother? I asked, keeping my tone light. He looked up slowly, suspicious now. Why are you asking again? He said. No smile this time. I shrugged. Just feels weird. You never mentioned any family. I'm about to marry you, Sam. Don't you think I should know who you are? He snapped his laptop shut a little harder than necessary. I've told you what matters, he said. What's in the past stays there. I don't owe you everything. That stung. Not because he was angry, but because he sounded scared. I pulled out the photo and placed it on the coffee table, like a bomb. This says otherwise. His face drained of color. Like he saw a ghost. Where did you get that? He asked. Barely above a whisper. I waited. That's Jake. So now he was admitting it. You said he didn't exist, I reminded him. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, head in his hands. And then he said something I didn't expect. Because he's dangerous. I just stared. You want the truth, he said. Fine. But you won't like it. And that's where he left it. So, he finally admitted it. Jake is real. His twin. His brother. His secret. But after saying Jake was dangerous, Sam shut down like a brick wall. No details. Just this look on his face, like he'd opened a door he couldn't close again. I'll tell you, he said. But not here. Not now. Let's just get through the wedding, okay? That's not how this works. Not when I'm one big red flag away from a nervous breakdown. So I didn't let it go. That night, while Sam was asleep, I slipped into the bathroom and called Jake. I figured if Sam wouldn't give me answers, maybe his twin would. Jake picked up on the first ring. Did he tell you? I told him only the bare minimum, that Sam admitted he existed and called him dangerous. Jake actually laughed. Not in a funny way. In a "you've got no idea" kind of way. Of course he did, Jake said. That's what he has to believe. Then he asked if I'd ever seen Sam lose it. Not in an angry way, but go somewhere else in his head. Blank out. Forget stuff. Hear things. I paused. There were a few moments. Late at night, Sam would sometimes mumble things in his sleep. Names I didn't recognize. He once freaked out when we walked past a kid's birthday party and they popped balloons like full-on panic attack. But I chalked it up to stress, anxiety, maybe childhood trauma. Not this. Jake said. There was an incident when we were 16. Sam changed. He started seeing things. Thinking people were following us. Our dad called it a phase. But then the fire happened. I went cold. What fire? He hesitated, then said. Our neighbor's shed. Sam swore there was someone living in it, spying on us. One night, it burned down. They never found out who did it. Are you saying Sam? I'm saying no one asked questions because our dad covered it up. And when Sam left town, we all just let him. There was a silence. I'm not dangerous, Jake said. But Sam's version of me is. The one in his head. Then he said something that's been sitting in my chest ever since. If you want to know who you're marrying, look at what he's trying to forget. I couldn't shake what Jake said. Look at what he's trying to forget. So I did what any half-rational, half-desperate woman does at 2 a.m. while her fiancé sleeps like a baby beside her. I started digging. First, I looked up the fire. It took a bit of creative Googling, local archives, old forums, neighborhood Facebook pages from his hometown, but I found it. Shed fire destroys property on Hemsworth Lane, July 2008. No injuries. Cause undetermined. But the comments below were the real story. Didn't that belong to the Johnsons? Wasn't their kid having problems with one of the twins? Was always something off about those boys. And then one that chilled me. We all knew it was Sam. Even his brother stopped defending him after that. That's what Jake meant. The fire wasn't the only thing that got buried. The next day, I needed air. I told Sam I was going to meet my mom for lunch. I lied. I drove out to the Johnsons' old address. The house was still there, but it looked different. New siding. Fresh mailbox. But the neighbor next door, an older woman watering her garden, was happy to talk when I asked if she remembered the fire. She squinted at me. Oh, I remember. Whole town smelled like smoke for days. You from around here? I told her I was engaged to Sam. Her smile disappeared. You poor thing. Then she looked around like she was checking for ghosts and said, that boy changed overnight. Used to be sweet. Then he got odd. Said things that didn't make sense. Heard voices. Said there was a man in the shed watching him. His own brother couldn't calm him down. After the fire, the parents pulled him out of school. Next thing we knew, he was gone. And then she said something that made my knees go weak. Funny thing is, it was Jake who kept coming around afterward. Jake who apologized to everyone. Jake who cleaned up the mess. So, who's really the dangerous one? I couldn't sit on it any longer. That night, while Sam was brushing his teeth, I stood in the middle of the Airbnb kitchen holding the printed article about the fire in one hand and the photo Jake gave me in the other. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding like it knew something I didn't. He came out, drying his hands, and froze the moment he saw what I was holding. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just said. I went to the Johnsons' old house. His face turned to stone. You lied to me, he said, low and flat. You lied first, I shot back. About Jake. About the fire. About everything. I'm about to marry you, Sam, and I don't even know who you are. He sat down slowly, like he'd been hit. Then he buried his face in his hands and just stayed there. For a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was hollow. You don't understand what it's like to question your own mind. Then he looked up at me, and I swear I saw something in his eyes I've never seen before. Not anger. Not fear. Just unraveling. It started with dreams. That someone was watching me through the shed. Then I started seeing him. A man with no face. Always standing at the edge of the woods. I thought he was real. He rubbed his eyes. Jake didn't believe me. My dad thought I was acting out. But I knew he was there. I saw him go into the shed. That's why I burned it down. I backed up a step. You admit it, then? I had to. I thought I was saving us. His voice cracked. But when the fire went out, and no one was found, it got worse. I started forgetting things. Jake said I was talking to people who weren't there. That I locked him out of the house one night and couldn't remember doing it. I stopped trusting myself. He looked at the photo in my hand like it was a mirror he hated. So I left. I became someone else. I buried it all. Including Jake. Then he said something that's been ringing in my head since. I didn't just erase him from my life. I erased him from me. There was a silence between us so thick I could barely breathe. And then he said the one thing I wasn't ready for. Sometimes, I still see the man in the woods. Even now. We didn't speak the rest of that night. Sam went to bed. I stayed on the couch, awake until dawn, just listening to the silence. Waiting for footsteps. Waiting to see a shadow move where it shouldn't. In the morning, I packed a bag. I didn't say I was leaving for good. I didn't scream or accuse or cry. I just told him I needed space. That I was going to stay with a friend for a few days. He nodded. Didn't argue. Didn't even ask who. He just said, I understand, like he already knew this was inevitable. But as I was leaving, he stopped me at the door and said, You should talk to Jake again. He knows what I try to forget. And then he added something so quiet I almost didn't hear it. Tell him. I'm sorry. That was 4 days ago. I've been sleeping at my best friend's place, trying to process everything. Trying to figure out what's real and what's a warped memory between two brothers who've carried too much for too long. Yesterday, I got a text from Jake. There's one more thing you need to see. No explanation. Just an address. An old storage unit on the edge of town. I haven't gone yet. I'm staring at the message like it's a loaded gun. Because honestly, I don't know what I'm walking into anymore. I thought I was planning a wedding. Now I'm untangling a decades-old secret between twins, one of whom might be mentally unraveling, the other maybe not so innocent himself. I still love Sam. But love doesn't mean much when you don't know what's buried underneath it.